Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Within Warzone right now, overall, the meta is pretty well balanced. We got a lot of options in various different weapon categories. However, there are a few standout options in the meta right now that are very strong for some different reasons. Some are ridiculously broken because they're just so powerful. Others are super powerful, super dominant because they are so easy to use and anyone can pick them up and just straight up fry. And with that, today I wanted to break down the top 5 most overpowered and most dominant weapons we've got in the game right now. So this one should not come as a surprise. I just want to get it out of the way because we've talked about it several times, but if we're talking overpowered guns, you simply cannot ignore the Lachmann 7.62 in full auto mode. This is probably the most difficult weapon to use on the list here today, without a doubt. I mean, it's really not usable in 50, 60, 70 meter fights. It's got to be 50 and closer. So like for resurgence, it's fantastic. For some mid-range, it's fantastic. And that's just because in full auto, the recoil is so extreme, so bouncy. You're going to have a hard time. Even the best of players are going to have a hard time staying on target again and again and again to actually land shots right back to back to back. But if you can land those shots at a somewhat consistent rate, nothing is going to beat this in game. It's just that dominant. But the setup is similar to what we've been talking about lately. I got the AMOT V4 on here just for pure precision. I like this optic a lot. If there's a different one that you enjoy more, feel free to change over to that. 50 round drum, you're gonna need this because you will miss shots. You're not gonna drop players in 7 shots exactly ever. I go for the Ripper under barrel for the better stabilization and stability. It's gonna make the recoil pattern here a lot more predictable, which is nice. If you wanted straight up recoil control though, you could go for lock grip precision. You could even try the Warrior under barrel on here. There are some good options, but I have found the most success with Ripper. I also go for the RAPP barrel for that better control and that better velocity. This is nice and consistent. I love the feel of this, again making the weapon a little bit easier to use. Then the Bore 490 compensator, it mainly focuses on horizontal control, but it does give you some vertical as well, which again just makes the pattern a little bit more predictable and a little bit more consistent. So over range, you're gonna find it's easier to actually pull down and stay on target than without this specific setup. So in theory, this is like the lowest recoil loadout for the Lachmann 7.62, and that's pretty funny because there's still so much recoil here. But if you can get past that and somewhat master this gun, the damage is just so broken. Now on the inverse of these weapons being overpowered, we've got the Sakin MG38. While the 7.62 is overpowered because its damage is so insane, the Sakin here is overpowered in my mind because its damage is just decent, but it is so easy to use. Arguably the easiest weapon on the list here today. The recoil is so minimal, especially with this setup on here, but as we've talked about recently, its TTK is actually up there towards the best of the best in the LMG category, and ultimately the best of the best in the general meta right now as well. So this thing's a laser beam and its damage is just good enough that it's going to fry when you land your shots, which is not difficult to do whatsoever, right? So it's the perfect storm. Again, I got the AMOT V4 optic on here, no surprises. I do go for the Stip 40 rear grip. This is for even more added recoil control on top of everything else we've already got. This is not the most necessary for players who really value something like maybe high velocity, or if you want a different sized magazine for some reason, you could absolutely change that out for one of those. But I like this setup because I don't have to work at all to control it. I go for the Edge 47 underbarrel in this case. If you wanted to upgrade to Ripper, you absolutely could. That's definitely an option for sure, but Edge works for me. It's not going to have a slow of an ADS, but it still helps out some with the stability. It doesn't do it as much, but you don't need as much on a weapon like this. Polar Fire Rate suppressor, better velocity, better range, no added recoil control here because this is a slightly faster suppressor. So again, your ADS doesn't take a huge hit. And then I go for the Silver Series barrel. This is that 3-in-1 combo of control, velocity, and range. You love to see that for any weapon you're trying to build out for mid to long range. So this setup lowers the recoil on a already very low recoil gun, makes it shoot incredibly straight, and your realistic TTK here is going to be nuts. It's so good. Now, as we get into the remaining 3 loadouts here, quick reminder, if you guys are new here, every day I got you covered with all things going on in Call of Duty. So if you want to stay up to date with the meta, news, patch notes, you name it, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you guys enjoy the video, if you find the information helpful, or you're using these screenshots to build your loadouts, do me a favor, drop a like. It would be really appreciated. Also, big shout out to my friends over at Gamer Advantage. Of course, you guys always see me rocking these frames. That's because they're the most essential part of my day-to-day setup. I say this all the time, but I do truly mean it. You guys know me. I don't back products that I don't believe in, and I love these things. Especially as someone who's always getting headaches or used to always get headaches, these things reduce them a ton. They reduce my eye strain so I can, look at screens for a longer period of time, whether I'm gaming, working, or if you're doing school maybe. If you're looking at screens, you need to get yourself a pair of these. Code Immortal gets you a nice little discount on everything on the Gamer Advantage site, including my very own bundle. Link for that will be down in the description below. All right, sort of post-edit Zach here, but my file kept corrupting in Premiere whenever I'd get to this next setup. So I'm just gonna throw this picture up from the community site where obviously I have my loadouts available as well. And within this, I got the FTAC Recon as well. This is a super powerful, super dominant weapon, but it's also one that is super high risk, high reward. It really is the only thing that can match the Lachmann 7.62 in terms of long range TTK. You are extremely limited in ammo though, unfortunately, because the 15 round mag that we have on here is the max. So that's like the major drawback here. But when you land your shots, man, this thing absolutely fries. Now on my semi-auto guns, especially one like this that's meant for mid to long range, I like the 3.4 times Schlager optics, so I go for that. I do use the Sakin Tread 40 compensator just because when you spam this, there is a decent amount of noticeable kicks, so that'll help contain that a little bit. I go for the Ripper underbarrel, which is obviously super clutch on semi-auto guns for that recentering. Then I do use high velocity ammo just to make it so I don't have to bullet lead as much, and ideally I can hit my shots on target a bit more consistently here. And like I said, if you do, you're gonna be able to erase players, but this is definitely a weapon that you got to practice with a lot because it is a very high skill option, but one that can be so powerful in the right hands. We also got to talk about the ISO 45 when it comes to SMGs. This is definitely the clear #1 choice, and all the stats will back that up as well. Even True Game Data's meta gen tool, which is like the AI that optimizes every loadout to see what gun truly is the best, it all comes out to the ISO still. This thing fries. Because the Lachmann's seen some changes recently and the ISO hasn't, this thing, like I said, it's the go-to sub. For close range, even for some mid-range, it's just outgunning everything, while also having really good mobility as well. So it's checking all the right boxes. Now for me, iron sights since day one, I am comfortable with them, I am familiar with them, but if you need to use a red dot or a blue dot because you don't like these irons, you could probably drop the KT85 compensator. I had this on here because it does make the weapon feel more consistent, especially in the mid-range. It's a lot easier to continuously stay on target, but that's more of a preference-based option. Everything else though is pretty standard. 7mm laser for that faster ADS and sprint to fire. The 45 round extended mag works great for all squad sizes. Sheer rear grip for that better ADS and sprint to fire. Then the Cheetah stock for better sprint speed, strafe speed, ADS speed. Your movement is just going to be absolutely nuts with this build, while also having the fastest TTK out of the subs at pretty much any single range. So good. I'm really surprised this one hasn't been adjusted, and it probably will be here in the near future. And then lastly, we got probably my favorite weapon in the game right now, the RAPP. I've been pretty high on this gun for some time now. If you guys are active viewers on the channel, you'll know what I'm talking about. But this thing, as we've mentioned recently in a video breaking down the LMGs, has the best TTK out of any LMG in the game. And then ultimately the LMGs are so dominant in the meta right now that also means it's one of the best TTKs in the game in general as well. It's surprisingly low recoil for having such good damage and such a fast fire rate, which means ultimately you're gonna have to reload a lot, but you can do that after you've just wiped a squad with one mag because the damage and the accuracy on this thing is so good, and that's why I love it. It's just so satisfying to use. So I go for aim op yet again. I go for the TCG-10 rear grip, straight up better recoil control. Again though, if you're comfortable with this gun and you really value high velocity, you could drop that and put that into the setup instead if you really need that. 100 round mag just so I have to reload less often. Like I said, that fire rate's pretty nuts, so you're gonna be reloading a lot as is, and this is an LMG, so it's slow, so we want to avoid that at all costs. Ripper underbarrel, once more no surprise. Then Talon suppressor again for that better velocity, better range, better control, even some better pizza with Papa John's here and there. Just a really consistent setup, especially after you use it a lot. You really get familiar with how the gun behaves and how it feels, when you should be reloading, when you should focus on just frying. You're gonna have a lot of success with this thing for very minimal effort. And that being said, those are 5 of the most dominant and overpowered weapons in Warzone right now, and that's gonna wrap things up. If no pun intended, wrap things up. I swear I did not mean to do that. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, if you found it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications on your way out to always guarantee you're up to date with everything going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.